Good evening, this is the Oscar expert here with Brother Bro. It's time to review Nomadland, the new film from Chloe Zhao starring Frances McDormand. The film is about Frances McDormand, who becomes a nomad after losing her husband, as well as her job. And so she lives with this community of people who are inspired to live out their lives in trailers or RVs or a van, in her case. They just take up whatever jobs they can. Amazon factory workers, staff at national parks. The work is like constantly changing. You know, she's in like various parts of the West and the Midwest. This film really touches on the poverty in America. It focuses on a location where giant factories, which once used to be like a boon for the local economies, are now shut down, and where hardworking people who do have jobs are unable to secure a retirement for themselves. So it is absolutely shining a light on that economic reality that a lot of people face that urban coastal people are just simply not aware of. It almost feels like a documentary in the first half sometimes because they use actual nomads in the film. I believe that these people were telling their own stories. I couldn't tell if it was improvised dialogue or if maybe they were like helped to craft, things to say. However it was actually done, the result is pretty fantastic, like as a way to get to know this place and get to know other people's stories. I think that's like what's brilliant about the movie is that you can't tell. This is like behind the curtain of Chloe Zhao. We don't know what was scripted. It's completely blended. So there's just like a brilliance to that, I think. Honestly, the most enjoyable part of the film was like the documentary kind of quality, where you get these real stories from people. I thought that was like when the film was the most enriching. And I wouldn't have mind watching a documentary with these people telling their own stories to the camera. Like that would have been enough for me. The film does focus a lot on like this one character who is Frances McDormand. It's very much a character study of her, but in a very subtle way that, to be honest, I haven't quite fully grasped, like figured out what exactly her journey was, because it's all internal. I think I'm like putting some pieces together, like about what we're supposed to make of her journey. A lot of like good bits of like substantive fruits that I'm able to, digest. But it was subtle enough that I couldn't exactly tell by the end of the film what I was supposed to come away with. I actually really want to see this movie again. I think there's something there that I didn't quite see on the first time. I thought this film was just striking as like a completely unique piece of filmmaking. Visually, performance-wise, narratively, like the editing style, like everything's so unique. Chloe Zhao's really operating in like sort of her own league here. I think this is an amazing character to have at the center of a character study. In many ways, this is like a transcendental sort of movie, like Into the Wild or something, or, Emerson or whoever. But Frances McDormand's character is not deliberate in the way that we usually experience transcendental like works. Like she's not somebody who's like, I have a mission in mind to go out and do these things. It's just like she's compelled to do them. And there are some aspects of it that are kind of sad and maybe she's lonely. There are some aspects where like she's experiencing, pure beauty and nature. And it's kind of like up to us to sort of wonder what she's taking away from it. Like how is she being fulfilled? It really is a movie that respects the audience's intelligence. I just loved experiencing this movie because of how I feel like it allows your mind to like kind of wander and think about different things, whether that's like things about the character or just like wondering what it would be like to live this lifestyle. Every shot is beautiful in this movie. Even ones where they're like interior or in a factory. Like I think there's something to be said about the cinematography looking nice, even just for the purpose of looking nice, because it's like evoking something beautiful about the lifestyle. One thing I took away from the film is that these people are living like really interesting lives, and I think it's honorable. Like good for them for, as I said, like not being beholden to like the dollar and like the American dream, like paving their own way to actually like experience life and really live it. But then we have to wonder also about like, who are these people tied to? Or Frances McDormand in particular, like, are there things that she's like running away from in doing and having this lifestyle? Like, I don't think there are any concrete answers where it's like suggesting, no, like she's running away. She really needs to like find a place to be and like settle down, which I really appreciate. And it actually ends up being like more existential. It's not really about, how does one end up like finding where they're supposed to belong? It was more like the state of being nomadic and like the act of like searching for that thing and then what is driving the character to search for that. But yeah, it's like a meditation on life in a lot of ways. It's very non-judgmental of the characters. And I think there's also like some real meditation on like mortality in the film. Even though you could spend a movie like this kind of feeling sorry for these people who were like, failed by our economy or whatever, these people do not want you to feel sorry for them. Like, they feel like they have agency in their own lives and that the decisions they're making to live in their vans or whatever are like deliberate and good for them, which is, again, really respectful to the subjects of the movie. There's like a character in the movie who is, nearing the end of her life, and all they want to do is just like experience things and like go watch families of animals walking in the woods. And it's very like thought-provoking about like where these people are getting like their nourishment from. I don't know, there's something to watching this movie, sort of second-handedly experiencing these things and wondering about what humans can make of such experiences. McDormand, is she good in it? Hell yeah, she's good in it. This is an really interesting performance because, in a way, she is the one who has to match the acting caliber of people who are barely like really acting. Like, they're just kind of being themselves. I think that's a challenge. Like, for her as a Hollywood actress, in a sense, to like break into someone else's world and blend in is a huge challenge. I don't think a lot of actors would like fit. It's just impossible to imagine anyone else in the role. She's so expressive without like doing a lot. Like, she's just naturally really expressive in very tiny ways. You need someone who's really like down to earth to play this part. The performances, I don't know the extent to which it's a performance, but of the supporting cast is like, they have some scenes that are like insanely good. And she's often like the listener in the scenes. So she's kind of responsible for like elevating that. I think that's a huge task. Not many actors usually have to do that. I think she just like the pairing of her and Chloe Zhao for the film was like excellent. She doesn't have like an Oscar scene because that's not what this movie is. This movie doesn't have like a huge moment in it. Let's just say that. Stratharn, not in it like that much. I would say he has like the screen time of Sam Elliott in Star is Born, but he doesn't cry. He doesn't need to like act his ass off as much as Sam Elliott did in those scenes. And I don't think he brings like quite as much to it in comparison, but that's very just good, yeah, he's very good in it. That's just the nature of like the character. I don't see it as getting nominated for an Oscar. If he does get nominated, I'll be surprised. I'm not saying it's impossible, because stranger things have happened, in my opinion. Yeah, I think Frances McDormand will be the only nomination for actors. And can she win? Win? I think this is not the type that wins Best Actress. And again, there's no like throwing shit across the room and yelling at her husband. No giving birth in one take. And also, this would be her third Oscar. Like, yeah, that's a lot. That is a lot. I think people might go for Viola Davis's second Oscar before they go for Frances McDormand's third Oscar. I don't know. At this point, I would not predict her winning for it, but she is so secure in a nomination. I mean, the first 5 minutes of the film, she has secured her nomination because it's just like the camera's in her face and she's like walking around like the Midwest, and you're like, yeah, that gets a nomination. Like, I don't even need to see the rest of the film. Yeah, I think it'll be right up there with the two that she's won an Oscar for. She doesn't need an Oscar for this to be like a legacy performance. And the way that she was packing those Amazon boxes, though, I mean, that was really where her performance shines. Other nominations: Picture, Lock. This is the Critics Movie of the Year. We will have to see, but it probably is going to sweep critics' circles. Will it be able to win major awards? That I'm more skeptical of. This didn't strike me as a Best Picture movie, okay? I probably would have said the same thing about Moonlight, though. So anything could happen. I'm not denying that it could win, but I think it's definitely an uphill battle for a movie like this. You gotta be a little bit like okay with cinematic poetry, because that's what a lot of the film is just trying to be. Oftentimes, when I ask myself, can a movie win Best Picture, I have to ask myself, would my parents like this movie? I would recommend this to them, but I wouldn't expect them to like it more than like the Trial of Chicago 7. I actually think they might like it. I think there is a certain appeal to the movie that like people who don't necessarily gravitate towards like films like this would actually like here. It's poetic, but it's not pretentious. It's intriguing too. It's an intriguing movie. It's just that over the course of the entire film, there's potential for people to kind of check out. And it also does have sort of an importance factor. We always talk about like those independent voters who aren't getting the attention of like the political elites, and those are those people on, like right here. So, you know, those people have been part of the conversation, but we never get really a close look at them. So there's that. It's also kind of about like the American economy in some ways.
It's a little bit about, very briefly, a guy is like preaching about the tyranny of the dollar, and it's so brief that the film's not harping on it. But if you want to like look into that and like the idea behind that, I mean, it's at the core of the film. There's a lot of broad observations about the country or capitalism if you want to dig into that, but the film's not like trying to like push you in that direction necessarily. Picture, director, it could win either, I think.
If Trial wins picture, it's not winning director. That I'm going to call right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So director will be like Fincher versus Zhao. Obviously, Fincher has like a huge overdue card, but like let's say something happens with Mank and it's like, I don't know if we're going to give the best director. Zhao's right there. I think she could win director without winning picture potentially.
Like she is, in a sense, like she's low-hanging fruit. Why not? You could give her director for this film. You really could. Screenplay, it's obviously a lock. I don't know if it could win. Maybe. It depends how much people like the film, really. And if it can win Best Picture, it can win Best Screenplay.
The second half definitely has a lot of screenplay moments, but obviously the first, where sometimes we're unsure if it's written or not, like that's not going to necessarily help. 1917 had editing, but they weren't sure if it was editing. So how are they going to vote for it being editing? You know
I love
that
you can't tell if it's written. Like it's
just I love
like
that, but
that's like fucking magic.
Then you're up against One Night in Miami, where it's very, very written, and that could win screenplay too, even if it's not as strong as a picture contender, because this movie's a little more about the visuals.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, One Night in Miami could win screenplay, perhaps.
Cinematography is the other lock for this film. Unquestionably getting nominated. It's an absolutely beautiful film. It's unique.
Kind of like a Malick movie. Editing, I think it's a lock too. I think it's a lock for a nomination for editing because they have non-linear editing. It's very like ethereal and it's jumping through time at points.
Chloe Zhao edited her own movie.
Yeah, Chloe Zhao edited this film.
I'm not convinced that it gets nominated. Just remember how like Roma didn't get it. And
no, Roma's a different movie. Roma had long takes.
Nomadland's editing isn't fast, and I know that the Oscars think that fast editing is good.
No, but it'll get nominated. I'm telling you, it'll get nominated.
Probably.
It's a lock for picture, director, actress, screenplay, editing. 5 right there. And cinematography. So I think it's getting 6 nominations. Strathern, don't think he'll get nominated.
The score is not going to be eligible. They use some of Ludovico Einaudí's music from prior compositions that he's done in the credits. It doesn't say composed by him. It says featuring the music of. This is going to be a very unique movie to be at the Oscars and one of the highlights of the lineup, I will expect.
Like in a similar way that like people were like Parasite saving the Oscars from being like boring and stuffy. Nomadland will help with that.
I'm going to tentatively give this a 9 out of 10. I really liked it, and I think it is one of the best movies I've seen this year, but I also would like to watch it again. It has the potential to go up in my mind, I think.
I'm just going to hold off on rating it because I left it feeling a little empty-handed, but thinking about it more, I do think there's something there that I want to discover in another viewing, and that would only be fair, I think. My opinion could change a lot. I think I'm going to like it a little bit more, actually, in the second viewing.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing.
What does home mean to you?